So this is the first lesson of our coordinate geometry module. We've got 3 lessons on this in our sort of induction work, which is a cross between the GCSE material from the A and A star and the Core 1 material. We're looking at trying to look at these different things during these 3 lessons, and today we're going to be starting with the equation of the straight line and getting onto a gradient as well, before following the other topics in later lessons and videos. First question there, I asked the class to try and brainstorm exactly what gradient is, trying to think of any different ideas. People usually come up with slopes or different things about how quickly you're going up. And that's really what we're trying to get. We're trying to say, how quickly is this line going up? And this first line here, we just try and figure out how quickly it's going up, because it's going along 3. So it's taking 3 steps along the bottom here, and it's going up 6. And the gradient calculation is how far up divided by how far along. So we've got 6 divided by 3. The gradient here is 2. The meaning of that is that for every 1 along here we're going 2 up. We're going 1 along and 2 up. We're going 1 along and 2 up. The second example down the bottom right there, this time it's only going along 2 here. It's still going up 6. And so the gradient of this one is 6 divided by 2. The gradient of this one is 3. So this one turns out to be steeper. It's difficult to tell just by looking at them which one's steeper. So that measurement of gradient tells us which one's going up the quickest. First little exercise then just involves a piece of squared paper, quite low level stuff to start with. Just set up your squared paper with -10 on one end and 10 on the other, and on the y-axis -10 to 10. And I want you to plot each of these points here and join them up and find out each of their gradients. That's the important bit, to find out each of their gradients. Push pause while we do that and then see what you get. Here's my answers here, and I've also got the how far along and how far up for each of these as well to show you. A here then, so the A to B, you can see is just going 4 along and 4 up. That one's got a gradient of 1. C to D here is going along 3 and up 6. That one's got a gradient of 2. E to F is steeper still. That one's got a gradient of 3. G to H isn't as steep. G to H has only gone up 3. It's gone along 6. So 3 divided by 6. This one's got a gradient of a half. G, H, I. I to J. Well, the big difference of this one here is it's going downwards. And so it's gone down 8 and along 4. This one's got a gradient of -2. Here's K to L. K to L has got a gradient of 2. And we've seen a gradient of 2 before. This one here had a gradient of 2. There's a word linking things that have got the same gradient. Let's see if you can think of it now. K to L, L, M, N, M, N. This one here is flat. This one's not going up at all. So it's got a gradient of 0. And O to P is the steepest of all of them. That one there's got a gradient of 4. So following on for finding those, because we could draw them, they were easy enough. But if we had to do it on our own, we would just be looking, how far up do these things go? That one's gone up 6. How far along has these things gone? That one's gone along 3. 6 divided by 3 gives 2. Got some more examples of these. So here's the next one. We're going up from 2 to 18. So we're going to do 18 take away 2. That's 16. 5 take away 1 is 4. The gradient, 16 divided by 4, is 4. And the last one of my examples, this one here has gone up 9. 14 take away 5 is 9. 7 take away 1 is 6. So we've got to do 9 divided by 6. And one of the big discussions we're going to have in the first few lessons is not to write this as 1.5, although that's right. 9 divided by 6 is 1.5. to actually just leave it as the fraction 3/2. 1.5 is 3/2. And why this is so much more useful will come in as we go through this non-calculator course. Um, your job now then, to have a look at some of these. Um, Straight line graphs, you'll remember from GCSE the general formula for a straight line graph of y equals mx plus c. And so the gradient was always the number of x's that you were going to get. Here, we've got the number of x's is 3, so the gradient was 3. Here, the number of x's is 5. That one's got a gradient of 5, but I switched them round to try and confuse you. And the last one, here, the number of x's is -2. And so the gradient of that last one is -2. That one's going down. That's a line that's going down. You'll probably remember what the other numbers mean as well. That one number there means that it crossed there at 2. The intercept line number. This one here was crossing at 2 as well. And this one here was crossing at 10. Going the other way around then, so if I've got now I know the gradient is 4, the equation must start y equals 4x. So if we know it's crossing at 5, it must be y equals 4x plus 5. And taking that back the other way, this one here, the gradient is the number of x's. Well, what numbers there? We don't actually write it very often. There's a little 1 in there. So we've got a -1, a gradient of -1, and it's crossing at 10. You can draw those. In fact, let's draw them on the next bit. This one here, 4x add 5. So we know it's crossing at 5. It's got a gradient of 4x, so it's going up with a gradient of 4. This one here is crossing at 10. We'll put the 10 on there, and it's going downwards. One extra bit for A-level that we didn't have to do at GCSE is we actually want to know what this point here is as well. Where does this cross the x-axis? Now the x-axis here goes through a number. It goes through the number y equals 0. So if we put y equals 0 in here, we can find out what the x number where it crosses is. I'm going to take away 5 and divide by 4. And this point here is -5/4. Now, I don't need to do 5 divided by 4 is 1.25 and make it negative. I mean, yes, it is, but I don't need that. Just putting the -5/4 is enough. And let's do the same thing on this one here. We're going through the x-axis here. The x-axis is when y is equal to 0. So put the 0 in there. Add x to both sides. Gives us x is 10. So it crosses here when x is 10. And so whenever we do A-level graphs, we need numbers both on the x and the y-axis, not just the y-intercept like you did at GCSE. That's basically the end of lesson 1 then. Have a look over those, practice some more straight lines of your own, and replay this if you need to.